All right, let's jump right into an incredibly tense, ancient assassination plot straight out of the Mahabharata. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a story that's honestly equal parts magical thriller and deep philosophical debate. We're going to look at an epic showdown pitting the ultimate destructive force against the ultimate healing power, all of it culminating in a perfectly executed supernatural infiltration. So picture the setup here. We've got a monarch living in absolute paralyzing fear, locked away inside what is effectively an impenetrable fortress. He's taking zero chances, heavily surrounded by poison-neutralizing mantras and world-class medicines. But on the outside, there's this unstoppable force, Takshaka, the supernatural lord of snakes, and he's on a hyper-focused mission to fulfill a deadly Brahmana's curse. It's literally the classic unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. And really, that brings us to the core conflict of this entire narrative. You see, this isn't just a fun story about a snake hunting a king. It's a desperate, high-stakes battle between human free will and absolute fate. The ancient text is essentially forcing us to ask, if your doom is predetermined by a curse, can you actually outsmart it if you just have enough caution, enough medicine, and enough magical protection? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we watch this play out. Part 1. A contest of magic, destruction versus restoration. To really grasp the stakes of this assassination, we have to look at the terrifying power of the two main players who cross paths way before the king is even in the picture. On one side, we have Takshaka, our supernatural serpent assassin, who possesses a venom so unbelievably potent it acts like a blazing fire. On the other side, we have Kasyapa, an illustrious healer armed with vidya, a profound spiritual knowledge and mastery over mantras. He claims his restorative magic can cure absolutely anyone bitten by the Snake King. Takshaka, of course, wants to prove his absolute supremacy, so he arrogantly issues a challenge. He targets a massive banyan tree, the literal lord of the forest. He strikes it, and the text describes how the poison penetrates deep into the wood, blazing up all around until this gigantic, majestic tree is instantly reduced to nothing but a heap of ashes. It's just an overwhelming, terrifying display of lethal force, obviously meant to intimidate the healer. Which leads us into part 2, resurrecting the banyan tree. So the tree is completely gone, right? Just a pile of ashes on the ground. But Kasyapa doesn't even flinch. Step by step, right under the Snake King's nose, he uses his knowledge to literally reconstruct the tree from the ashes back into full bloom. The text actually details this methodical, unbelievable miracle. First, he creates a sprout from the ash. Then he adds 2 leaves, then the stem, the branches, and finally, boom, the full-grown tree, completely restored. He totally reverses total destruction. Kasyapa proudly stands there in front of the revived tree, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that his medicine and mantras can completely neutralize Takshaka's venom. He's basically saying, I have exactly the skills needed to save this cursed king. And Takshaka, well, he realizes right then and there that he absolutely cannot physically overpower Kasyapa's healing magic. Part 3. A bribe to alter fate. This is where the narrative shifts from a battle of pure magic to a brilliant, tense game of psychological warfare. Takshaka knows he can't win with brute force, so he pivots to cunning. He cleverly attacks Kasyapa's logic and his ego. He points out, look, this king is already doomed by a curse. His predetermined lifespan is up. And then he drops the hammer. He warns Kasyapa that if he tries to save the king and fails because the curse is unbreakable, his blazing worldwide fame will completely disappear, like the sun during an eclipse. He introduces this massive seed of doubt. Now, Kasyapa isn't just powerful. He turns out to be incredibly pragmatic. The text notes that he actually sits down in deep yoga meditation right there to verify what the snake is saying. Through his spiritual insight, he sees that, yep, the king's lifespan really has run out. So Kasyapa essentially shrugs, admits he was really only going to the king for a massive reward anyway, and boldly demands his payment directly from the assassin instead. And Takshaka eagerly pays up. He successfully buys off the greatest healer in the world, giving him as much wealth as he desires. Kasyapa packs up and heads home. Through pure manipulation and bribery, Takshaka has systematically removed the king's only real protection, completely sealing the doomed monarch's fate. Part 4. The Deadly Fruit. With the healer totally out of the picture, Takshaka approaches the heavily guarded city. But he knows the king is still surrounded by intense security and poison-neutralizing mantras. So he orchestrates this brilliant Trojan horse infiltration. He sends lesser snakes disguised as holy ascetics, who arrive with seemingly harmless gifts: kusa grass, water, and some beautiful fruits. The paranoid king is tricked into accepting them. After the ascetics leave, as the sun starts to go down, the king gets this sudden urge to eat the fruit, an urge that the text specifically notes was impelled by fate itself. Now, inside the specific fruit the king happened to pick up, Takshaka has been waiting. The ancient text gives us this incredibly vivid, sensory description of the terrifying snake king hiding in the most pathetic form imaginable. He's disguised as an ugly little insect, so tiny its shape is barely discernible, but with these striking, distinct black eyes that have a strange coppery hue. We hit this moment of deeply, deeply tragic irony. The king looks out at the setting sun and genuinely believes he has survived the final day of his curse. He literally declares out loud that he has no more fear of poison, feeling entirely victorious. And he says this at the exact moment he is holding his supernatural executioner right in the palm of his hand. What happens next is just astonishing. The text explains that the monarch loses his senses because his predetermined hour has finally arrived. He jokingly, almost arrogantly, talks to this ugly little copper-eyed bug. He invites the insect to turn into Takshaka and bite him to fulfill the curse and wipe out his past sins. Without even realizing it, he gives the final verbal command for his own assassination. The tension finally just snaps. The smiling king actually places the tiny insect directly onto his own neck. Instantly, the illusion drops. The tiny bug explodes into its true, massive, terrifying form. Takshaka coils around the king's throat, unleashes a tremendous roar that completely shatters the false peace of the fortress, and the Lord of Snakes fatally bites the protector of the earth. The inescapable assassination is complete. It leaves you with this chilling realization, doesn't it? We literally watch this king build fortresses, gather rare medicines, and surround himself with the best guards. And yet, at the exact appointed hour, he was the one who smiled and placed the serpent on his own neck. Was that his own hubris, his own free choice? Or, as the ancient text heavily suggests, was he entirely impelled by a fate that orchestrated every single microscopic step? It really makes you question the limits of our own power and preparation when we're faced with the grand, mysterious design of destiny. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this deep dive leaves you with a lot to think about.